who do we have here?
Blue Jay the Brown.
Blue Jay the Brown.
We're pulling out all the stops, all right?
There we go.
We're winning on Monday.
There you're winning? Okay. Them's fighting words, man. Them fighting words. This is going to be the one week that you and I are going to be butting heads. Every other week prior to this and after, we'll be on the same level. But this is going to be the one week that we're going to have to agree to disagree. So with that being said, before I even talk about football, I know we have talked face to face about this, but I just wanted to obviously on a new platform. Wanted to get your, I wanted to give you the floor. The microphone is yours, and talk about your trip to beautiful LA.
Oh yeah. Oh, what a great trip. Yeah, we went down there, went to the little Rams game, had a good time. I mean, wasn't a great game. Not gonna lie to you. You know, a little lackluster. Was hoping for some more scoring, but that's what you get. Luck of the draw, I suppose. Then we went to the Lakers game. Boy, oh boy. Oh, that's a special place. Expensive, but worth it.
You were saying it was like how much? Like, well, I know the difference in currency from Canadian dollars to American dollars.
Yeah, so my parents got drinks and like a tall boy can, whatever, like a standard 2 drinks was 23 American. It's like $30. What do I look like? Jeff Bezos? I'm wearing a luchador mask from Mexico. Look how crooked the logo is. Like, I can't afford this.
But it looks good. It looks good. It may be a little crooked, but it looks good.
Yeah. I like it.
Now this is coming from someone who's obviously never been outside the country, so I imagine that the weather there compared to here is like night and day.
Yeah, it was really nice down there. It was like 15, 20 during the day, and then I mean obviously it gets a little colder at night, but like I was consistently wearing shorts and a t-shirt during the day, and then at night I'd maybe throw on a sweater if it was a little windy, but it's nice down there.
I gotta say that I think if you were in a place, and I'm sure LA, and I know there's a lot of places down south that they probably don't experience a whole lot of cold weather or snow and stuff like that. But I just imagine a dream world where snaps, Nacho Libre. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The Canadian Nacho Libre. But I just think it must be such a nice luxury to go out in December, January, November, whatever it is, just like you said, in short shirts, maybe a sweater if it gets a little chilly. I think it's just phenomenal because I feel like when you're north of the border or north of the states at least, that we're obviously have to bundle up. Pretty much, this is like Halloween for me. You got to dress up every single day.
Yeah, I mean, if I took half the people I seen down there and plopped them where we are right now,
hello, Carla.
Oh boy, they'd go down hard. What would they do? Like get off a plane. You've never been here before. You're coming from LA.
Yep.
I mean, you might die. Your heart might stop.
I think I know I've talked to a few people that have come over, but I just imagine going from living in like a warm climate and then say you get off the plane or whatever the case may be is, and you get here in the dead of the winter. I think that would be such a crazy reaction because you'd be so used to the warm weather wherever you're from, and you come up north and it's just like, oh my god, like. And the funny thing is that I still find it mind blowing how like the states they have the Fahrenheit and we go by Celsius, and when they come up here and it's just like, oh, it's 10 degrees, they think it's probably like minus 20 or whatever the case may be is.
Yeah, I mean 10 degrees. Oh boy, that's shorts weather for us.
Man, I'll walk around in a sweater and shorts at 10 degrees. I'll take that any day. And then obviously if we were to go down south, obviously you've been down south a couple of times, but just to see like the temperatures. Imagine you go to like Arizona or something like that, and it's like 90 degrees. You're like, what? 90 degrees? How are people alive? But obviously Fahrenheit and Celsius is different.
I remember when I was younger, we went down to Palm Springs, and I seen on like a billboard, it was like showing like the live temperature, and it said 132. And boy, oh boy, I thought we were cooked. So, like you know, I'd say make a world standard, but that's my opinion.
It's true. It's true. I feel like if I went down there and like if I was oblivious and I had no idea about that, I'd think, am I the main course here? Like I am just sweating like bullets, and it's bad enough that I'm sweating when it's 20, 30 degrees here. So imagine the humidity down there and how much hotter it is. I think I would probably just drop dead the second I even left the hotel or left the airport.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's times it gets hot enough down there you can't even open your car door because of how hot it is. You'll burn your hand.
It's unreal. I guess as much as I hate the heat and I'm not a fan of the cold, I guess I'll deal with having half cold, half heat here rather than sweating 365 days of the year down there.
True.
I know we didn't do a video last week, but do you happen to know what you think or what your record might be heading into week number 13?
I know what I got last week, 100%. Yeah. Last week, I only got 2 games wrong.
Really?
Yeah, it was a real good week for me.
Damn.
The only ones I got wrong were, who did I pick? It was the Sunday night game, I think.
Oh, the Ravens and Chargers? Or no, that was the Monday night game.
No, I took the Ravens. Oh, man.
Oh, Philly and LA.
Yeah, I took the Rams.
Oh, okay.
I took the Rams, and then I lost another pick earlier in the week, or earlier in the morning, but yeah. Damn. Only 2 wrong last week.
You would have been like 13 or hold on a second, because I was 8-5 last week. So if you only got 2 wrong, that would be.
I think it was 11-2.
Wow, yeah. That's incredible, man. Yeah, I completely crapped the bed last week, so good for you. That's amazing.
Let's stay hot. Stay hot.
Yeah, here we go. So the big thing for obviously tomorrow being the American Thanksgiving, it's an annual tradition that's dated back since before I was born, where they always have multiple games, 3 games, I believe. And I want to do my best to try to stay awake and watch those games, but my luck, I'll turn on the TV and pass out. But with that being said, I think the first game, I think 2 of them are divisional games. The last one's like an AFC and NFC game. We have, where's my paper? Man, I'm all over the place. First game, we got the Detroit Lions 10-1, and they are playing against the 4-7 Chicago Bears. I'll let you take this one, and then I'll go to the next game after.
All right. I mean, it's very hard to go against the Lions right now. They are, I mean, in my opinion and a lot of other people's, they're the best team in the league. How do you stop them? You can't. They got the best running back duo in the league. They can throw the ball short. They can throw the ball deep. They can do anything they want on offense. You've seen it with the linemen, right? They run plays with their linemen. I mean, I don't know. I don't see anyone stopping the Lions anytime soon. So, I kind of like what the Bears are doing. I kind of like Caleb Williams. I don't know. Too inconsistent right now.
Yeah.
Overall, I don't know. Just a weird season for the Bears, in my opinion. But I'm going to take the Lions in this one. This is early game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably low scoring then. Probably 24-13.
24-13. Perfect. I agree with you. I think the Lions should get the victory in this one. I will have them as the favorite, but I will say this though. Last week I picked the Bears, and they took Minnesota to overtime, and yes, unfortunately they did lose. So when it comes to division games, you could have 1 win, you could have 0 wins. It doesn't matter. Obviously, if you look at your Browns last week, I don't think anybody would have predicted that they would have won against the Steelers. And yes, they had the opposite record. I think they're 3-8 now, if I'm not mistaken. But you really can't take teams for granted. And really, what does Chicago have to lose other than losing? Nothing. They know they're not making the playoffs. I mean, at best case scenario, they'll get like a mid pick when it comes to this upcoming draft. But otherwise, unless they go on a 6-game winning streak, I think it's going to be very tough for Chicago to get out of the hole that they've dug themselves into. And yes, you talked about Caleb Williams. He is a good quarterback. I'd say out of the top 3 quarterbacks from this draft, Not necessarily in this order. A lot of people could make the argument you're going to have, oh my God, Daniels out of Washington. You obviously have Bo Nix from Denver, and then Caleb Williams. And in my opinion, those are the top 3 quarterbacks from this past draft. So there's a reason that Chicago got him, and he should be their franchise QB. But they've also done so much wrong with their former first-round picks, Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields. They did not develop those quarterbacks that well at all. And I think the only quarterback that had success was Trubisky when they led them to like a NFC North title back in like 2018. That was many years ago, and they have not seen postseason action, I believe, since. So I think it's tough. It's definitely going to be a tough road to hoe when it comes to the Bears because there's just so many good teams in that division. You mentioned the Lions. I think the Vikings, they're in second place. The Packers. I wouldn't be surprised if those 3 teams all got into this year's playoffs. So that's why I'm thinking it's going to be tough for the Bears. But I think it's going to be a close matchup, especially against the Lions, even though you just finished talking about how dominant their offense and their defense is, and their coach is like I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. I've said this so many times that I think the players would just run through a wall for that coach. There's something about Dan Campbell that he just sparks this team, and there's a reason they're as dominant and as good as they are. So I will take the Lions, but I think the Bears are going to put up a fight. And a crazy stat was the last time the Lions won a Thanksgiving game was 2016. It's been 8 years since they've always hosted every single year they've hosted their Thanksgiving annual game, and they have not come away with a win. And it's crazy they've had Jared Goff for now 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, and he's been 0-2 or 0-3, I guess, in that time. So I think the year the Lions finally break that curse, and they still are going to be dominant. But I got them 27-21. I think it's going to be a 1-score game. Again, you can't take teams for granted. And obviously, when we talk about our teams going against each other, I have my take about your team, and it's not a bad thing. Don't worry, it's not a bad thing. But I think that the Lions, I agree with you, they should take this matchup. Okay, now we have the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. They got Danny DeVito. No, not Danny DeVito. Tommy DeVito.
No. He's hurt.
Oh, no, it's Drew Lock.
Yeah, DeVito's hurt.
Oh, man. Well, that DeVito era just went out the window. Well, next year. They got him next year. Man, like, it's for 2 teams. Well, I mean, going into this season, I think we both knew the Giants weren't going to be that good. But, man, obviously with the Cowboys, with their expectations, and obviously Jerry's always wanted to go to the Super Bowl. He hasn't been there in 30 years. Dak's obviously gone for the rest of the season. Cooper, I think, is the guy at QB, right?
Yeah, Cooper Rush.
So Cooper Rush and Drew Lock. Who would have had that as your Thanksgiving matchup? I don't think anybody would have.
What a treat for America.
America's team. Yeah, my butt. Man, this is tough. Is it possible to pick a tie? Like, I don't think any team, like either the Cowboys or the Giants, really have a favor in this matchup. You know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say it ends up being like a 14-14 game. It goes to overtime. Nobody scores. I've never predicted a tie in my life, but neither of these teams have really impressed me. Now, should the Cowboys defeat the Daniel Jones-less and Tommy DeVito-less Giants, they should, but they've been so piss poor all season, it's hard for me to really predict a winner. So I'm going to be bold and say this finishes as a 14-14 tie.
Now here's something you might not know about me, Ian. There was a guy who used to play on your favorite football team, and he goes by the name of Drew Lock. I happen to love Drew Lock. I think he did not get a fair chance. The Giants are going to absolutely run the table tomorrow. Malik Neighbors was so unhappy last week because he just didn't get the ball. You know what Drew Lock does? He throws that rock. All right.
Yep.
I mean, Giants by a million.
Has there ever been a million points scored in the NFL?
I can see it. I'm gonna go Giants 33, Cowboys 17.
Wow, 16-point differential. That would be interesting. I mean, if the Giants win, that'd be fantastic because I'm sure they would love to be able to have bragging rights that they defeated one of their NFC arch rivals. But again, like I said at the start, I just it's hard for me to favor one of these teams. Yes, technically the Cowboys have 2 games on hand of the Giants right now, but like neither team has really impressed me this season. So the night game, the Thursday night game has the 8-3 Green Bay Packers taking on the 5-6 Miami Dolphins. So I went last time, so I'll let you take this one.
See, here's the thing. Where is it being played?
Green Bay.
Oof. I'm taking the Packers.
Yep.
History. I mean, you can look at the numbers. The numbers prove it. Tua does not play well in the cold. I seen a post a couple days back that he was like in an interview and he said that people aren't ready for what he's going to do in the cold this time. I don't buy it. Not one bit. All right? He hasn't shown it before. Why is he going to show it now? That's my take. I'm taking the Packers. Let's go. It'll probably be a close game still somehow. Let's go 24-21.
24-21. Fantastic. Okay, so both these teams, and it's surprising to say that they're both on hot streaks, considering that the Dolphins are still technically a game below 500. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they've won 3 games in a row. With that being said, I'm still not that optimistic about Miami. I think that if you're like a Dolphins fan or if you're even a Dolphins player, whatever it is, you have to think you have the biggest disadvantage in that AFC East because the Jets, the Bills, and the Patriots all play north of the border or close to the northern part of the states. So they're used to the cold, they're used to the snow, they're used to that stuff. Miami, they have 8 games at home and then 8 games away or whatever it is, or however that works out.
Yeah.
And like you said before, Tua has not played that well when it comes to playing north of in cold conditions. So with that being said, I think it'll be, what did I write down? I think it's going to be like 37-20. Yes, Tua could probably throw a couple of touchdowns, but again, it's such a big factor. Like if you want to be a good team, you have to be able to go into these environments and beat those teams. Green Bay, they're used to the cold environment. They're used to the snow. There's a reason that it's one of the coldest stadiums in the entire NFL. It's just that damn cold. And no matter how many heat pads you put on, no matter how many heaters you have around you, it's hard to get out of that cold stuff, especially if you're not used to that. And it's one thing to practice in it. It's another thing to play in it. So they could have a great practice all week.
Yeah.
But when you go up against that team, and I mean, I'm not saying that their defense is elite, but I mean, I think they've held their opponents to under like 20 points the last couple of games, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that one. So they have a pretty good defense. And obviously, I think they've put up over 30 points in the last couple of games as well. So there's no question as to can their offense keep up with their defense. The only question mark I would have for Green Bay, and last week I think Love did play a perfect game. I don't think he had any turnovers, but he's a high risk, high reward kind of guy. He has been in the past known for throwing a lot of bad interceptions, not paying attention. So if he can have a clean game, that's why I think that score can be doubled up. I think they can win by at least 10 points. But if he starts fumbling the ball or he starts turning it over, that's the only way Miami is going to win this game is if their defense can come up with some big plays. Otherwise, I'm with you. I think Green Bay's got this all day.
Yeah, and I mean, here's another thing to look out for. Miami's built on speed. And, speed don't work all too good in the cold.
Nope.
So look at your vehicle, folks. You start driving fast, when it's icy, look out.
I mean, there's a reason Tyreek Hill is called the Cheetah. Yes, he did play in Kansas City for a number of years, but now he's so used to the warm weather in Miami. It's not too often you see cheetahs in Canada. You don't see too many cheetahs in the northern part of the states. And even if they were, they wouldn't run that fast.
Cramping, I think, is going to be a huge factor. I mean, depending on how cold it is. I haven't looked at the weather. If it's cold enough, cramping for the speedy guys, Achane, Tyreek, Waddle, Mostert, who's aging and already injury prone, it can slow him down. That's just another addition to why Packers will win.
Exactly. Again, the only way I hope if that Miami comes away with the win is if they can get a couple of interceptions, maybe a pick six, but I have very little hope on that. Friday, man, this couldn't be a more one-sided affair. You have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the worst team in the league, the 2-9 Las Vegas Raiders. The Chiefs 11-1. Like as I said, the 2-9 Raiders. This is a laughable game. I don't even know who's the starting quarterback. Because Minshew's out the rest of the year now. Maybe they go back to Pat O'Connell. I don't know. I don't even no idea what the Raiders situation is. They have so many question marks going into the off season. What do they do? Like, is there a coach? Is there a coaching change going to happen? They obviously have to draft a QB, and now if they finish with the worst record, they should obviously get the best quarterback in the college class, whoever that may be in 2025. But man, I don't even think the Raiders show up. Yes, they're technically going to be in Kansas City, but I don't think this is even going to be a game. I think this is going to be a blowout. I think this is going to be a shootout. I'm going to be bold. I say it's going to be 38-6. I don't even think they score a touchdown. They'd be lucky if they even get 2 field goals, man. Like, yes, they scored 19 points against my Broncos last week, but man, when you're going into Kansas City, it's very tough to win at Arrowhead. And I don't think the Chiefs have lost at Arrowhead this year. The only time they've lost, I think, was in Buffalo 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that the Raiders even stand a chance. They might as well just wave the right flag right now, just give Kansas City their second bye week, and then they can focus on week number 14. So, yeah, KC all day. It kills me to say that because I would love to see these teams score 0 points, and then maybe Denver has a chance to catch up. But, yeah, I think Kansas City has this one in the bag. With that being said, I know they haven't performed that great, and I did see the stat earlier about how close the margins have been when it comes to Kansas City games. They've only won a lot of their games. They've won by like 1 possession, or it's been like Mahomes has. You could make the argument he hasn't been played like himself, and Kelsey is obviously getting older. He's not going to be that dominant tight end. He's not going to be the best tight end in football, unfortunately. But yeah, I think KC's got this one in the bag. Like I said, 38-6.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, here's the thing: is the Panthers, of all people, took the Chiefs to a 3-point game.
Yeah.
Right? That just proves about anybody can make it a close game. So my score prediction is going to reflect that. However, I do think the Chiefs are obviously going to win. Not only are they the better team, they also get Pacheco back. So that's a huge addition to their offense. You compare him with Hunt while he's still coming back from his injury. I mean, recipe for disaster here. Probably going to be a run-heavy game. I'm going to go 17-14.
17-14. Close game. I mean, for entertainment-wise, it'll be great to see a close game. But, man, I just...
That's solely based off the Chiefs just seem to always get into these stupid situations.
Yeah.
And McConnell's cool, so...
I mean, it'd be more entertaining to watch if it was a close game, but my luck, I'd predict a close game and it'd be a blowout. That's why I'm saying the exact opposite. I think they'll just win by a mile. Maybe Mahomes rests in the second half. Who knows? But I got KC. So that's one thing we can for sure agree on. Now, the rest of the games, aside from our matchup, does take place on Sunday. I believe all 32 teams are in action. I don't think there's any teams that have their bye week. So it'll be lots of football, and I'm really excited. So the first game
this week?
What's that?
Baltimore, do they play?
Yep. Every team plays. There's no bye week. Yeah. This is going to be a lot of football and a lot of fun. Okay. Now we have the Atlanta Falcons, who are still somehow in first place in that very weak NFC South division with a record of 6-5. The Chargers obviously coming off a loss in the infamous Harbaugh Bowl. I don't think Jim has ever beaten John. I think John's still perfect against Jim. So the Chargers, I'm sure, are going to be a little upset about losing last week, especially at home. They'll be in Atlanta. I got the Chargers. As much as I would love to see them lose, and if the Broncos happen to pull it out, and we'll get to them in just a bit, I'd love to be able to leapfrog LA. But at least for my team's perspective, I don't have to worry about finishing in last place in the AFC West. But yeah, I got the Chargers all day. Atlanta's just been too wishy-washy. They can win some games by a lot, then they can get destroyed. I think they still win the NFC South only because that division's incredibly weak. Now, with that being said, Tampa, I think, is only 2 games behind them. So, obviously, if Atlanta loses, Tampa wins, they'll just pull within a game. But, man, Atlanta, for a team that's been through so much heartbreak, and obviously if you've been watching football for a little while, you'll never forget that infamous 28-3 lead they had over the Pats, and they absolutely blew that. So they'll have that hanging over their head until they can get back to a Super Bowl, if they can ever get back to a Super Bowl. But that's a big if. For me, Captain Kirk is just not doing it. I don't know if it's change of scenery, but he just does not seem like the same quarterback that he was in Green Bay and Washington. Sorry, not Green Bay, Minnesota and Minnesota and Washington, respectively. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. So, yeah, I think the Chargers got this, and I'll give them a slight edge. I think it'll be a closer matchup than maybe some people think. So I'm going to give the Chargers the edge. I think they'll win 25-21.
I completely agree with you. I think that the Chargers are the better team, honestly. I love Herbert. I think that he'll lead a good comeback after last week's loss. So Kirk Cousins is so inconsistent, man. Oh my God. You just can't take a chance on him. So I'm gonna take the Chargers with you. I'm gonna take it 28 to 17.
28-17, fantastic. Two score game. The next one. Now this is one that I want to get your take on it first, and then I'll say mine. I'm sure these two teams, if they could just not show up at all, I'm sure you'd be happier than a pig in poop. But they had the Bengals 4-7 taking on the 8-3 Steelers. I'm sure you would love to not talk about this game at all, but if you had to make your prediction, how do you think this one's going to go?
Well, what is the Bengals' record currently?
4-7.
Yeah, no. Bengals ain't winning this game. Sorry about it. I contemplated taking the Bengals here.
Yep.
I'm taking it's Steelers, right? I'm not crazy?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
No, you're not crazy.
Steelers. We're taking the Steelers in this one. I like what Russ is doing with the deep ball. I'm not going to lie to you. It's fun to watch. As long as it's not against the Browns, I'm happy. All right? I love seeing George Pickens and his antics. So he can go off and do that against the Bengals. Go ahead. Let's go 35-31.
35-31 in favor of the Steelers. Sounds good. Okay, so I'll lock that in. Pittsburgh 35-31. Now I'm going to be a little bold on this one. I think that I'm going to take the Bengals in this one, and they're narrowly hanging on to a potential playoff spot. I know. We're not always going to agree on all these picks, but I think that if Jameis Winston can lead a team to victory over Russell Wilson and the Steelers, I believe Joe Burrow can do the same thing. It's crazy that he's had an okay season, but they just haven't been able to finish it. And I'll never forget that controversial thing when they played against the Ravens and they went for two. Just kick to the extra point, give a chance in overtime. I'll never quite understand. I understand you want to win in regulation because you don't want to go to overtime. But if the Bengals had won that game, they'd be 5-6, and they'd be right there with the Dolphins. So they're technically a game behind the Dolphins. I think 2 games behind Denver for that last playoff spot. So I think Joe Burrow plays the best game of his possible life. And they still narrowly are going to hang on to a playoff spot, because if they drop this one, they'd go to 4-8. And at that point, you would have to write them off, because the only way that they would have success is if they won their last 5 games. And let's be realistic, they're not going on a 5 or 6 game winning streak, especially with their schedule. Because I'm pretty sure they have the Ravens at least one more time. They might even have the Steelers, or the Browns could be playing the Bengals. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but they're guaranteed to play at least 1, maybe 2 more division games. So I think this one here is going to be the one that's going to define the Bengals season. Again, if they lose, I think they're mathematically going to be eliminated. And if they do win, their playoff chances will increase by a hair, just a hair. But, I think it'll be a close contest. And, again, with these division games, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. So I'm going to give the Joe Burrow and his company the victory. I say it's going to be 27-24.
Oh, okay.
I think Russ still shows up. And like you said, he can still throw the ball deep. And Pittsburgh's a very good team. I mean, obviously, they've had the same coach for almost 2 decades now. So they're doing something right in the Steel City. And obviously, if the Steelers do win this game, they'll get to 9 wins, and then that'll be like 17 or 18 straight seasons that they've had an above 500 record, which is a crazy stat. I don't think any team's ever done that. Maybe the Patriots, but that's about it. Oh, man.
I hate that stat. Like, what does it prove? Oh, I'm so mediocre. Like, grow up.
Like, for me, I would rather my team make the playoffs every single year rather than just like, oh, we had a 9-8 or a 9-7 record. Congratulations. Did you make the playoffs? No, but we finished above 500. Thumbs up. Way to go, guys.
We got picked 18 in the draft.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get a great pick.
Oh, my God.
All right. Now we're off to the AFC South as we have the horrendous Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 2-9 taking on the 7-5 Houston Texans. Now, one of the 5 games I got wrong was the Texans lost to the Titans. CJ Stroud, to me, he's proven to me he's more human than anything because I think he had 2 turnovers last week, and he's definitely shown that he's had some inconsistencies at times. Yes, they're still above 500 and they're still first in the AFC South. But at this rate, if Houston loses any more games, which they probably will lose a game or two, I'm not going to lie, they'll probably finish with the number 4 seed in the AFC. I don't see a scenario where they can bump ahead of the teams such as let's be honest, they're not catching the Chiefs. They're not getting first place. They're not getting that first round bye. In the AFC East, they're not surpassing Buffalo. Buffalo's got that division. I think the Chiefs and Bills are like 1 and 2 respectively. And then in the AFC North, you have the Steelers or the Ravens. One of those 2 teams could win. And I'm pretty sure that Houston lost to either. Yeah, there you go. The Browns. There you go. The Browns are just going to 7-game winning streak. Man, they got that division down pat. But yeah, I think Houston for sure will probably lock in that 4th spot as long as they don't have a collapse like the other previous AFC South teams have had in the past. As long as they don't go on a 4-game losing streak at the end of the season and miss the playoffs, I think they should get get it, and they need this win. They need this win. If Jacksonville pulls this one off, there's going to be a lot of head scratching when it comes to this team because, man, like this, when you look at the big picture, if you're playing a team that has less wins than you, theoretically, you should be the favorite team. And they lost to the Titans. Granted, it was only a 1-score game. But man, like if CJ Stroud, like I'm not questioning whether he's the future of the team. He's clearly the franchise QB moving forward for many years to come. But you have to play better. Yes, you're in your 2nd year, but man, if you're playing worse in your sophomore season than in your rookie year, that's not looking too good. Like you got to be a little bit smarter. And they haven't had a whole lot of changes. I mean, other than bringing in maybe Diggs and a few players during the offseason and trades, this is pretty much the same team from last year. Yeah. So it's not like there's a bunch of new guys that they have to form chemistry with. Like they're with each other every single day. They're on the bus. They're on their practice field. They're on the plane together. They're always bonding. So like you need to gel now more than ever. Like this time you got to dig in deep and you got to get some W's because again, if they lose to Jacksonville, they will go to 7-6. Again, they shouldn't lose that division because the Colts, I think, are 5-7. So, I mean, unless Indy goes on a crazy winning streak, Houston should have this division in the bag. But, man, like, you want to talk about a bad loss, a bad home loss? They should not have lost last week against the Titans, and they shouldn't lose to the Jaguars. Not saying they won't, but I think Houston should get the win. I think it's going to be a 1-score game. If the Titans can put up a fight, what's to say the Jaguars can't? Because just like we talked about before, any team that you know is not making the playoffs, they're playing spoiler at this point in the season. Mm-hmm. If they can go and ruin your season or make you fall further down the standings, they would love that. They would laugh if they could do that. So I got Houston winning this one, but I don't think they're going to blow out the Jaguars. I think it's going to be a dogfight, and I think the Jaguars will put up a fight. So I'm going to say 30-27.
See, I agree and disagree. Because I personally think that the Jaguars are what I like to call the triple P. Piss poor pathetic. All right? I'm sick of it. I look at this team week in, week out, and I think, man, what's going wrong? Don't know. I don't got time to watch the film. I just look at the stats. All right?
Yeah.
I wish I had time to look at the film. I don't. So, with that being said, what's happening? Is it the coaching? Probably. I'm pretty sure Peterson is still hired, so get him out first of all. Get some fresh meat in there or something. I think that this is just going to be a mop. I think Texans are just going to show their offensive firepower. Mixon will probably have 2 touchdowns. I'm gonna go 37-14.
7-14. I mean, after their loss last week, I could see them wanting to blow off some steam and roll all over them. But like I said, my argument was that if Will Levis or Will Levis can get a W over you,
yeah.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence was a first overall pick. I don't know what pick Levi was, but I guarantee he wasn't the first overall pick. That if a guy who wasn't number one can beat you, what's to say Trevor can't? Now, again, I know you're going to argue and say, well, they haven't done anything all season. But I didn't think that Tennessee had a shot in hell at beating Houston last week. And then because of Stroud's inconsistency and turnovers, they ended up pulling this one out of the bag. So Stroud has to have a perfect game. Yes, you can maybe have one interception. You are human. We all make mistakes. But if you're throwing multiple picks and they're not good, there's definitely some mind games that you've got to try to figure out. So, yeah, Houston, I agree, should win. You think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be close. So that's one thing we'll agree to disagree on. The next one takes place in Minnesota. We have the second place 9-2 Vikings taking on the, I believe, first place, or maybe they're tied for first in the NFC West, the 6-5 Arizona Cardinals. So I'm surprised by both these teams of how successful they both have been. I know, obviously, in the offseason when Kirk left, I thought Minnesota was going to go through a bit of a rebuild. They ended up drafting J.J. McCarthy, if I'm not mistaken. Then he got hurt in the preseason. He should be their quarterback moving forward, but obviously if you lose an entire year, it definitely is not that good. Now, I'm sure he'll be healed by next season, and hopefully he can have a great sophomore year. But Sam Darnold has taken this team on his back. I mean, there's a reason they're 9-2. He has definitely played very well. He has exceeded expectations, at least from my perspective. And then when you go on the Arizona side of things, Kyler Murray, he seems to be like superhuman now. I know we've always joked around in the past about him and his gaming history, but he's definitely gelled. He's definitely focused. And I didn't think that a coaching change could make such a big impact. But I think I think it was last year or the year before when they fired their coach. I thought this team was just going to be trash. They're going to be fourth in the division for years to come. And I remember I talked to you before about his contract and how bad it was. But now it's starting to look like maybe it might be worth it. So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just put my head back.
Oh, sorry. So I think this is going to be a close game. I think this will be definitely a one-possession game. And as much as I want to say that the Cardinals can pull this one off, there's something gritty about this Vikings team. And I'd be very shocked if Minnesota did not make the playoffs. Like, even if they lost their next 6 games, they'd still have finished 9-8. They already have that 9th win, so they're for sure going to finish with an above 500 record. And I think that they may even put up a fight with the Lions. But, I mean, I know I've said before Lions should have that division locked down, but they're only winning or ahead of the Vikings by 1 game. So if God forbid the Lions lose and Minnesota should win, then they could be tied for first place in that NFC North. So for sure the Vikings should make the playoffs, and this is a game that they definitely want to win. Because I think if they lose and say the Packers end up winning, then I don't know if the Packers would take second place or if Minnesota would still hold on to that. But I'm sure Minnesota would love to be above Green Bay in the standings. So I got Minnesota. But again, I think it's going to be at least a one-score game. I don't think one team's going to really control this game. I don't think it might even come down to the wire. It could be a late field goal. It could be a late turnover that settles this game. I'm going to say 25-22 in favor of Minnesota.
There you go. I like that. I also really like what I'm seeing out of Minnesota, personally. I think Sam Darnold is showing, I mean, wow. Nobody saw that coming. So, good for him, honestly.
Yep.
But I'm sticking with you here. I basically agree with everything you said. You were just speaking what I was thinking. I mean, thanks. You just spoke the truth. We're taking the Vikings in this one. I'm going to give them a little bit of bigger gap, I think. I think I'm going to go 27-17.
27-17. Fantastic. I mean, even if the Cardinals do win or do lose, it's still not the end of the world because that NFC West is so close that they can easily bounce back in week number 14, whoever they're playing. And I think it's going to be a dogfight. Like, I think I seen the standings earlier today that, like, fourth place to first place, it's only separated by one game. Like, I'm pretty sure every team in that division has at least 5 wins. And it's going to be a dogfight going to the week 18. I think it'll probably take until the last week of football to settle who's going to be the division champion. Now, a game that would have meant so much maybe 10 years ago, but not necessarily now. We have the 3-9 New England Patriots taking on the 5-7 Indianapolis Colts. No, this isn't a Tom Brady versus a Peyton Manning matchup. As much as I would love to go back and rewatch all those games again, those were classics. The Patriots obviously not making the playoffs. The Colts are hanging on just like the Bengals for dear life, trying to salvage whatever season that they have. So obviously, if Indy wins this, they'll get to 6-7, and depending how the teams above them do, they could pull within a game or 2 games of a wild card spot, which I'm sure they would love nothing more to do. And even still, if say Indy wins and Houston loses, I think they're only going to be a game back of Houston. So it's a lot closer than a lot of people think. But with that being said, I think Indy has this one. Drake May, yes, is a fantastic quarterback, and he will be the future of New England. And I'm sure they'll have success somewhere down the line, but unfortunately, it's definitely not going to be this year. So, to me, it personally doesn't matter who starts, whether you have Quentin Richardson or if you have Joe Flacco. I think Indy should have this one in the bag. I'm going to say, I say maybe 23-13.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll put it this way. Drake May, I think, is the future. He just doesn't have the pieces around him.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple pieces there. There's Demario Douglas. I really like him. Who else is there that I like? Nah, that's about it on offense. But I think that there's a little bit of foundation there, and they just got to build on it. But it's just still too early for them. Colts have a little bit more firepower than they do, so I'm going to take the Colts in this one as well. I like Richardson. I think he's fun to watch. A little risky at times, protect yourself a little bit, but it's fun to watch. So I'm going to take the Colts in this one. Let's go 22-13.
22-13. Fantastic. It's possible. I mean, realistically, we're only separated by a point on that matchup, so that's pretty close. So now that we have oh my God, I don't even want to talk about this team. The New York Jets 3-8 take on 6-5 Seattle Seahawks. I know this game is going to be torturous for both of us to talk about, but I want to keep this trend going. I'll give you the microphone first. I'll let you take the floor, and then I'll say my piece after.
I'm so disappointed. So disappointed because here's the thing: is a couple weeks back I said that Rodgers was going to run the table. Boy, oh boy, did he prove me wrong? Yikes! Just pathetic. He does not look anything close to decent. You have two of, I still think Devontae is a top 10 receiver. I don't know where you have him, but you've got 2 top 20 receivers, let's say, and supposedly one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, who all of a sudden doesn't know how to throw and command an offense. How's that work? So, yeah. I'm not taking the Jets. Ever. The rest of the season, I'm not taking the Jets.
Nope.
They're finishing with 3 wins. Oh, I don't even want to talk. They make me so mad. Like, what are they doing?
No, I completely agree with you. Tell you what, just to save yourself the misery and pain, just say your score, and then you just be done with it.
Go 27-10.
27-10 in favor of the Seahawks. Okay. I think that whatever I've said in the past, there's nothing else more to say about the Jets than what you have said, I have said in the past. This has just been an absolute train wreck from the very get-go. If this is a marriage, this is going to end in a very nasty divorce because I'll be the first to say it. I don't see any way in hell the Jets bring back Aaron Rodgers next season after this incredible, horrendously horrific season. You've had him for 2 years. Granted, he was injured all of last year, so last year was basically a write-off. If you have a 3-time MVP, and maybe it's 4-time, whatever it is, and like this is like whenever players, and it's not just for football, it could be for any sport. Whenever someone has a great career, and then you want to, and then say they want to move on. In this case, where he wanted to get out of Green Bay because he wanted to start somewhere else, you want to, and it goes back to the Russell Wilson signing too, or trade with Denver and Seattle. When you offer someone money, you should be paying them what you think they're worth, not what they've done in the past, because this is not the Aaron Rodgers from 4 years ago, 3 years ago, when he was an MVP caliber quarterback. He led Green Bay to so many division wins and obviously the one championship many, many years ago. The fact that they gave up so much to get him, and then they tried to bring in his former players. I think they brought in Lazard, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously this year they brought in Devontae Adams. Just because you had chemistry in the past with that team doesn't mean you're going to gel with your new team. And there's been so many examples, and I could sit here for hours talking about how horrendous teams or how badly teams have screwed up. But man, if you're a Jets fan, this has to be the lowest of the low. Like, you went through so many quarterbacks, you've been through so many coaches, you went through so many general managers, and yet you still managed to suck year after year after year. If I was a fan of this team, I feel like my life would be draining. Like, it's just my energy level would just be draining out of my body, and I'm basically a corpse at this point. The only way you could revive me is if the team was 17-0, won the Super Bowl, and then you could, put the heart piece on me, and then I could come back to life. Otherwise, I would not want to have anything to do with this team. And I know I've gone on so many rants about the Jets. I don't think they have a prayer in hell against Seattle. Seattle's got a very good defense. They have a decent quarterback. And I never would have guessed that I'd say these words. Geno Smith is the better quarterback on paper than Aaron Rodgers. I never would have guessed those words would ever utter my mouth. Ever.
Yeah.
So it's sad to say that I think Rodgers' career should be and will be coming to an end. If he does play again next year, I know he has made a point that he wants to run it back again and do one more year with New York, but you can't. You absolutely can't. Whoever the new manager is, you cannot have him come back. You cannot pay a 40-year-old quarterback hundreds of millions of dollars just for having below subpar results. So I think Seattle's got this one all day. It doesn't matter what pieces you put around Aaron Rodgers. He's not the quarterback he was, like I said before. It's horrendous. Seattle's going to win this one. I say they shut him out. I say it's going to be a shutout. I don't even think Green Bay puts up any points. I'm going to be that guy, that bold. 24-0. That's my prediction.
I like it.
Just trash, man. Dumpster fire. And this is coming from a guy who's had 10 years of no playoffs. They are worse than us. So, yeah, that's all I got to say. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, still 6 more games to go. So let's see if we can get into this. The Washington Commanders are 7-5, taking on these 3-8 Tennessee Titans. So obviously an interconference matchup. The Titans are coming off a win. The Washington's coming off a loss. I think Washington has this game in the bag. No disrespect to Tennessee, but again, I think it was just, I don't want to say it was luck that they beat Houston last week, but I mean, Tennessee is obviously not a very good team. They're not making the playoffs. Washington is fighting for their life. I'm pretty sure they're in second place of the NFC West, or the NFC East, I apologize. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they are clinging on to that 7th seed in the wild card spot. So every game from here on out for every team that wants to make the playoffs is going to be crucial. I think Washington needs this win more than anything. So they should improve to 8-5. I'm going to say 28-17.
Yeah, I mean, this game's pretty simple for me. Washington's just the better team.
Yep.
I know that last week you can say that too, that Houston was the better team. Tennessee ain't doing it twice. I'm sorry. They say lightning don't strike twice. It's true.
Yep.
Washington, I'm pretty sure, lost to the Cowboys last week.
Yep.
Absolute barn burner in the last 2 minutes of the game. So it's going to be a get-in game for them. I'm going to take Washington Go 30 to 13.
30-13. A 2-score game, or a 3-score game in that case. All right, now, I'm sure this one you'll be glued to the TV. You have the 3-8 Carolina Panthers taking on your former guy in Baker Mayfield and the 5-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's your
take? As long as Mike Evans plays, this is going to be a rough one for him. Regardless of what happens, the Bucs are going to win this game.
Yep.
It's just whether or not it's through the air or on the ground. If Evans plays, Baker's probably going to throw for 300 yards. I don't like the Panthers. They just bring no joy to me watching them. Their defense is a little cool, but when I watch football, I want to enjoy what I'm watching. The Panthers, I'm just there like, when's the next pick? So, that's just how it is sometimes.
Yep.
That being said, let's hear your score. What was your score for this one?
Okay, well, I'll take the Buccaneers. Whether Evans plays or not, I don't see a scenario where Carolina wins this one. Yes, they're technically only 2 games behind the Bucs, so I mean, both these teams are below 500. But I don't see a scenario where Carolina wins this game. Doesn't matter if they're playing at home, playing away. I think Tampa Bay got this one in the bag. Again, with or without Evans, I think it'll be 28-13.
28-13. I'm gonna try to split it in the middle of either a rushing or a passing game. I'm going to go 24-13.
24-13 sounds great. Okay, so now we got the New Orleans Saints. They are 4-7, taking on the Los Angeles Rams, who are 5-6. So for the Saints, I think there was high expectations going into the season because obviously you have Derek Carr, but because of injuries and inconsistency, they are not performing that great. And I could be mistaken; they might still technically be alive in the playoff position, but let's be realistic. I don't see a scenario where New Orleans goes and wins 6 or 7 games in a row. They're not making the playoffs. Speaking of playoffs, the Rams, man, this is. I know you said you went to go see them live, but this team, they are a shell of themselves. Like there's been, I think they started off like 1-3 or 1-4. They got back to 500, and then it's like they lose one, they win one, they lose one, they win one, they lose one, they win one. It's like, you guys, if you want to make the playoffs, you need to win more than 1 game in a row. And you got Matthew Stafford, who's still their QB, and I mean, let's be frank, he only has a couple of years left, if that, because he's definitely getting up there in age. So I'm sure the Rams will be going through a rebuild at some point, unless they can get lucky and get a decent draft pick. But I mean, say they finish the season 7-8 or 7-10 or 8-9 or whatever it is, you're looking at a middle of the pack for a pick, unless you can draft up higher, trade for a higher draft pick. And I know last year we had a crazy class when it came to the QBs. I'll be the first to admit I don't really pay that much attention to college football until we get closer to the draft, and I'll see their stats and stuff like that. So I don't know what this upcoming draft is going to look like, how many quarterbacks are elite. But, I mean, if you're the Rams and you don't make the playoffs, you might as well just tank right now. Just lose the rest of your games so you can be guaranteed to get like a top 10 draft pick. Maybe you can get a quarterback, whatever the case may be, is to solve your problem going forward. But, yeah, if they want to make the playoffs, they have to win this game. They have to win next week. They have to go on at least a 3-game winning streak to put themselves back into that position. Because I did check the standings earlier. They're still technically in a playoff position, but they're like 2 or 3 games back. And like I just said, they have to win 2 or 3 games in a row if they want to pull this one out of the bag. So the Rams should technically win this one, but I'm going to go with the Saints. I don't want to. I really want to see LA get back to 500 for the 4th time and hopefully get above 500. But it's hard for me to really be a fan, or it's hard for me to really be rooting for a team, like I said, when they're so hot and cold week in and week out. So I think New Orleans has this one. Man, like, this is such a tight game. It might honestly go down to like a last-second field goal or something like that. So I'll give the Saints a narrow edge in this one. I say maybe like 25-23.
I also think it's going to be a 1-score game. However, flipped.
Taking LA.
I just not quite going to give up on them yet. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I went and saw them. It's just right here. I just feel it. They're not quite. But so another field goal game. little lower scoring than yours. I'm going to go 17-14 for the Rams.
17-14 sounds good. I mean, I would love it if they could get a win and just to have the Rams have one more shot with Stafford at a playoff run. But again, for me, it's just been too wishy-washy. Age is definitely starting to show when it comes to Matthew Stafford. Now, this next matchup, I think I will be glued to the TV and I won't even want to blink. We have the 8-4 Baltimore Ravens taking on the 9-2 Philadelphia Eagles. This has offense written all over it. I can see both these teams scoring about 30 points respectively. Maybe both Lamar and Jalen Hurts rush for a couple of touchdowns. I think this is going to be an epic battle, and I don't want to be that guy that says that these bold predictions this early in this part of the season. But if the Chiefs don't make it out of the AFC and the Bills don't make it into a championship game, the Ravens, I can see them being. I think they have to be a Super Bowl favorites. One of the 3 or 4 teams in the AFC, they have to be Super Bowl favorites. And Philadelphia, if they keep playing the way they did, I know you and I have been like so not in love with Philly, but it's hard to not like them because they're on such a hot streak right now. Yeah. I would love to have this be a Super Bowl matchup. I think it would be fantastic for the league, for fans, and obviously for the fan bases. This would be epic. You have the Battle of the Birds. With that being said, I still think Baltimore pulls this one out. But even if the Philadelphia loses, they're still going to be in first place. Philly really has not a whole lot to lose because they have a 2-game lead up on Washington. And like I said, even if they happen to lose and say Washington does win, they still have a win. They'll still have one win ahead of Washington. And if I'm not mistaken, they beat the Commanders earlier in the season. So even if they finish with the same record, I'm pretty sure Philly would end up getting the home field advantage or whatever it is and get the NFC East crown. But I think, like I said, this is going to be a showdown, 38-35. I think Justin Tucker is going to kick like an 80-yard field goal just so we can have the record again.
I like it.
But yeah, I think 38-35 is a very respectable score. I'm not trying to crap on their defenses, but when you have offensive power, when you have Jalen Hurts and you have A.J. Brown and you have, I can't believe I'm saying these words, a MVP contender in Saquon Barkley. Who would have ever thought Saquon would have a season like this? All you have to do was just get out of the Big Apple. And now you're taking on the Baltimore Ravens. You have Lamar Jackson. You have Derrick Henry, who has definitely refound his game. This is going to be a showdown. If I was on the defense of either one of these teams, I would be just sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh my God, how are we going to stop either of these offenses? It's impossible. There's no way these two teams don't score more than 20 points. That's why I think 38-35 is definitely going to be the final score between the Ravens and the Eagles.
I'll start with my final score. 35-32. I won't tell you in what favor yet.
Okay.
I'm going to make a couple bold predictions here because this is going to be a game, folks. First one, I'm going to say, you're going to think this is wild. 1,000 total yards of offense.
Wow.
1,000 total yards combined.
Wow.
Not with kick return. Saquon Barkley, 250 all-purpose yards, probably 2 touchdowns. He's, in his last 2 games, has 500 total yards. The guy's unconscious right now. And when you're playing that good, you just don't stop. Especially in a game like this. You just don't. So, I hate the Ravens. Give me the Eagles. 32. Eagles.
Okay.
I don't. You know what? It's going to be a great game, but something says, and right back here in the back of my head, it says the Ravens are going to win. I don't believe it. No. I don't believe it. As a Browns fan, I don't believe it. Give me the Eagles, the good bird, not the Raven, Edgar Allan Poe, back home. Give me the Eagles.
Give me the Eagles. Fantastic. like I said, that's for sure one game I do not want to miss. I think it'll be a shootout. It's going to be, it'll be amazing. And like I said before, if this could be a Super Bowl matchup, that'd be great. But I know the Chiefs and Bills are obviously going to play a bit of a factor in the AFC. Speaking of the Bills, they're going to be highlighting the Sunday night game. And I just seen a picture before I talked to you. There's supposed to be a heavy snowstorm in Buffalo. Now, if you're a Bills fan, you're used to that because you're living in the cold. Like we talked about at the very start of this video, they're used to those cold temperatures. They're used to that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think last year the team actually asked fans if they could come help shovel the snow because there was just so much of them. Yep. So I think, and they're taking on the 49ers. And just like when we talked about with the Dolphins earlier, the 49ers playing in the cold, I don't see how they can possibly win. And obviously being without Brock Purdy and the injuries from this 49ers squad, they're not technically done, but I don't see a scenario where their third-string quarterback goes into Buffalo and pulls off a win. There's just no way in hell that I see a scenario. I think, I've talked about this before. Josh Allen has a major chip on his shoulder. He's always been a great regular season quarterback, but it's the playoffs that always seem to kill him. And if you have a resume by the end of your career where you have a great regular season but a piss-poor playoff performance, you're a good quarterback, but he wants to be among the elite. I think this is the season, I've said this before, that he wants to turn that whole narrative around, and he definitely wants to get his team into a Super Bowl contention. So there's no way the 49ers go into Buffalo and pull this one off. So I say Josh Allen has himself a field day. I say he throws for 3 touchdowns, runs for 2. This is going to be at least a 42-10 game. Yes. 32-point differential, I believe. 42-10 will be the final score. I say the Bills got this one all day long.
Yeah, 100%. Bills are going to take this one. Too many injuries for the Niners. It's just an unfortunate season for them, really. You can't really attribute it to much else other than that.
Yep.
And, I don't know. Just an unfortunate season for the Niners. But boy, oh boy, the Bills are hot. The Winter Soldier and Josh Allen. Oh, my hero. He's so good. Bills by a million. 50 burger.
50 burger. They're going to put a 5-0.
50-17.
50-17. Wow. Man, that would be epic. That would be pretty crazy. I mean, the Bills Mafia would love to see that. Now, this is the moment that I and you have been waiting for the entire segment of this stream. Your Browns are heading into the Mile High City to take on my Denver Broncos. Obviously, for the Browns, we talked about this before, a very disappointing season. And the Broncos, they're hoping that Bo can lead this team back into a postseason berth. So I'll ask, who do you want to go first?
Here's the thing, Ian. I want to go first. I need to talk about my boys.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. When I wake up on Monday morning, I'm going to wake up, and the first thing I'm going to do is put on a Jameis Winston inspirational video. All right? I'm going to hear him in the huddle, talking his stuff, preaching, because apparently he's very faithful. I didn't know that until a couple weeks back. But man, he loves Jesus. So I'm listening to that, right? All day, all I'm thinking about is the Browns. We are winning this game. God said, let there be light. All right? Last week was just the beginning. My birthday. They go in there and they win a game that they're not supposed to win. Technically, not supposed to win this one either. But with the power of Jameis Winston and Jesus Christ and David Njoku and however he got burnt and Nick Chubb and his robotic knee, we are going to win this game. I don't care about no Bo Nix. I don't care about no Portland Sutton. I don't care about no Patrick Surtain. None of them. I don't care about no Zach Allen. None of them. All right. Browns are winning 27-21. Book it.
27-21 in favor of your team, the Cleveland Browns. Okay, I hear you. Now, before I even
your
say,
argument.
This is what I got to say. Before I even get into my defense of my team, I think this is going to be a closer matchup than what a lot of people think. You guys obviously you held, I think, Pittsburgh under 20 points, if I'm not mistaken, last week at home. And it's not like the Browns are playing in the south of the states where they're around warm weather. I mean, if you watch the game or watch the highlights, the second half was a winter wonderland. So they're used to the cold. They're used to the snow. I don't know what, I didn't get a chance to look at the forecast for Denver, but they're in the same category. They're in the same vicinity where they're used to the cold. They're used to the snow. And obviously for Bo, this is going to be his first time getting into that coldness. And if it does snow, that'll be his first experience with this. But I think this is going to be a closer matchup than what a lot of people think. You guys have a pretty good defense. I'm not going to sit here and talk trash and all that other stuff. I would love to. But I honestly, like, this is one of those games where if you're a Broncos fan, you cannot overlook the Browns. Because if we think this is going to be an easy and automatic win and we start going into our bye week, because I'm pretty sure our bye week is next week. If we start thinking about, oh, well, it'll be an easy cruise win, we'll have a rest for next Sunday, and then we'll get back to the action in week number 15. You cannot do that, especially if you're trying to make the playoffs. You have to believe that every team is just as competitive as you are. And as I've said, I'm going to sound like a broken record, as I've said this before. When you're in a position that the Browns are in and they know they're not making the playoffs, they have nothing to lose at this point. I guarantee they wouldn't care if they finish with 5 or 6 wins on the season. If they know they can do damage to other teams and ruin their chances of a playoff spot, I guarantee they would leave every single game with a smile on their face, knowing that, hey, we just possibly took those guys from a playoff spot to outside of that position. And I mean, the Broncos, yes, if they do lose, they'd still technically be in that seventh spot. But I mean, if Miami wins or Indy wins, they're only going to be a game ahead of those teams. And then if they're off week number 14 and the Dolphins and say the and the Colts play in week number 14, they could have the same record as Denver, and then we're looking at a 3-headed horse race for that last place in the wild card spot. Because let's be realistic, there's no way. I don't think Denver is going to catch the Ravens. I don't think. I mean, technically, we have the same record, I think, as the Chargers, or maybe they have one less loss than us. But I think the Chargers should get at least that 6th spot. The Ravens and Chargers I'd say right now, are for sure a lock to get the 5th and 6th spot. Unless the Ravens happen to bump the Steelers out of first place, then Pittsburgh could still, I think, finish 5th or 6th. So I don't see a scenario where the Ravens drop off or the Chargers lose and the Broncos exceed that. So I think the Broncos, if they get to the playoffs, they're looking at a 7th seed, which right now they'd play the Bills. And that would crush my heart because I love the Broncos and I love the Bills. So it would be a heartbreak and it would be happy at the same time if that was the AFC wildcard matchup. But we still got a few more weeks to decide and settle that one. So with that being said, I think this is going to be a 1-score game. I know Denver's defense has been dominant, and yes, they're technically leading the league in sacks. And the one thing that blew my mind was that they brought Vance Joseph back as their defensive coordinator when he was their head coach just 3 or 4 years ago. So I thought, why are you recycling coaches again? Like I don't want to do this. Like, but he's proven he's a very good defensive coordinator. I think after he got let go by Denver as their head coach, he went to Arizona and he was a defensive coordinator there, and he had a pretty good defense with Arizona at the time. They just obviously struggled with their offense and injuries and stuff like that. So I think it'll be close. I'm going to say, I say they pull this one out, but it'll be like just the narrowest of victories. I say 24-21. I think it's going to be closer than what a lot of people think. I know I have watched the preview, and a lot of experts are saying this is going to be a blowout. It's going to be a 2-score game. But like I said before, you can't take any teams for granted. I don't care if a team has 0 wins and you have 7 wins. If you overlook that team, they can easily go into your barn and win. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. So, yeah, I think, what did I say, 24-21, something like that? Okay. Yeah, so there are a few games that you and I have disagreed on, and I knew this would be one that we would not see eye to eye.
Hey, I just want a good game.
Go ahead.
As long as I get a good game, that's all I care about.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a very good game. I don't think, like I said, I don't think either team is going to roll over. I don't think the Broncos win by a mile. If they do, it would be good, but it would be crappy at the same time because, like you said, I would love to just sit down and watch a really good competitive game, two teams going at it. But yeah, that's good. That's where I'll stay. That's where I'll end that. I'll stick with that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
That's all we got, folks.
Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Basically, yeah.
Fantastic, man. Well, I'm sure we'll see each other at some point, and if we don't, then we'll definitely do this again next week as long as both of our schedules lined up, and we'll see how we did with our picks, and more importantly, how we did with our predictions of our beautiful teams in the orange. The Browns and Broncos highlight the game of the week, folks. You heard it. The game of the week will be next Monday.
Blue Jay the Brown.
What's that?
Blue Jay the Brown says goodbye.
That's good, man. It's been a blast as always, and again, we'll be in touch for sure. And good luck with your picks, and more importantly, good luck with your little matchup on Monday.
Yes. Best of luck to you.
I appreciate it. All right, we'll do this again, and as always, see you, bud. Thanks.
Yeah.